As the stomach turns, the continuing saga of a paramedical examiner lost on the dirt roads of abella. This week's episode, would you please put some clothes on? Welcome, Toastmaster Fischer.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, thank you so much for coming to the meeting and listening to another one of my very true tall tales. Everything in this speech is 100% something that happened to moi. Now, I am a paramedical examiner. What that means is, while doctors don't make house calls, Bob does. I actually see patients 7 days a week in their home, and after doing this for 33 years, I have realized that the end of every dirt road is either a mansion or a scene from the movie Deliverance, never anything in between. So I've been doing this, and every time I see a dirt road, I actually now take a picture just so people can understand that what I'm saying is God's honest truth. Now, I've come across many interesting stories and many interesting people, and I've actually done a speech before called, "Excuse me, your epidermis is showing." Now, you would think those four people would be the extent of how many times people have been buck naked at an exam. And you would be extremely wrong. Now, it happens for all types of people, male, female, and other. It doesn't matter who they are. But I'm going to share four of my new personal favorites. Now, I've been doing this, like I said, since 1988. And I've been doing home exams. And back in the day, it didn't matter if they were male, female, animal, vegetable, or mineral. We were able to do EKGs on anybody. And being that consummate professional that I am, I would send out a flyer if I was going to do a young lady and let them know, yes, I'm going to be doing an EKG. I will need to have access to your chest, but we're going to do everything possible to maintain your modesty. So I had this one young lady who was in about her 80s somewhere, who decided when it was time to do her EKG, it would be a good time for her to go change and put on something a little bit more comfortable. Well, this made Bob very uncomfortable because when she came out, she was wearing a purple teddy with fuzzy high heels. Now, I think I was about to have my very first pizza delivery man experience, but unfortunately, she was not an attractive 80-year-old. There were parts on her that were dragging on the floor. So we passed on that one, but she definitely made it to the Bob speech of As the Stomach Turns. Now, it doesn't only affect the people that are more experienced in our society. I actually had a gentleman who was 20 years old who needed to give me a urine sample. So I give him the cup, and I always do this before I draw the blood because, we want to make sure that the specimen's fresh and that it's legitimately they're giving them to me. And there's an actual little temperature strip on the side of the cup because, if you get a full cup of urine and it's absolutely ice cold or it's hot enough to poach an egg, and I've had both, something's a little fishy. Well, I did not need to doubt this gentleman's authenticity of his specimen because he whipped it out right there in his living room and started to go. And I'm like, wow, what are you doing? And he goes, well, I play college basketball. When they say you got to give a urine sample, you do it right then and there. I go, put your schlong back in your pants and go do it in the bathroom. He was a little upset. I mean, okay. I was having some envy there because he was definitely gifted, but he still needed to put it back. And then I had my newest person. This just happened last week. Now, this young lady was a professional coming back from her exercise. She was wearing a spandex unitard, right? Very beautiful young lady. She went and she turned her back to me and she was getting stuff ready while I was preparing my specimens. Now, I know when you're exercising, sometimes the bra strap may show, especially if you're in your exercise gear. I'm okay with that. But what I was not preparing was when she turned around and was showing me everything that God had gifted her with. She had enough to make Dolly Parton jealous. And it was all hanging out there for Bob to go, what? But I was like, excuse me, ma'am, you may want to cover up. And she goes, what? And she looks down, she goes, oh, and didn't move. I was like, can you please go cover up? I'm married, I don't need this. Begrudgingly, she actually went and covered up. It was like she was intending to sit there with all her jiggly bits hanging out. Now, normally, this would be okay, but I was smelling lawsuit. So I had to have her cover up. Now, none of these types of speeches of as the stomach turns would be complete, especially if we were doing one where the epidermis was showing. And whether it fits in the speech or not, I always include this last gentleman because nothing gets more wackadoodle than the gentleman who needed his EKG. Now, you see, when you do that, you want to make sure there's no electronics anywhere in the room because it can interfere with the results. So I asked the gentleman, where do you want to do it? It cannot be anything plugged in. He said, we'll do it on my recliner. My EKG is going bonkers. There's electrical interference, what we call artifact, every which way but Tuesday. And he goes, oh yeah, it's got a heating pad built into it. I was like, well, that plugs in. What doesn't have an electric? He goes, we'll go in my bed. So we go to his bedroom. It's going crazy too. He has a heating blanket. I was like, sir, whatever you have cannot be plugged in at all, regardless, it interferes. We'll go to the guest room. Now, there was 2 twin beds in the guest room. The one closest to the door was empty. The one by the window had his inflatable girlfriend who was nude on the bed. He picked her up lovingly, put her teddy back on, and laid her on the other bed, and then proceeded to lay down. At least he covered her up, Madam Toastmaster.